My name is Awad Ramadan. Ramadan is one of the months of the Islamic calendar, right? I was born in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, and I moved actually and lived in Egypt for 4 years, right? Before I moved to Tucson in 2008. Actually, I moved to Egypt in 2003 and I stayed there until 2008 where I moved to Tucson. Moving here, I went to Pima Community College, started school all over again, and then to the U of A. I'm still at the U of A. I'm currently working on my PhD in education, and I'm also a principal, as your teacher mentioned. So I'm married and I have a son. He's 18 months. Here he is only 11 months. This is an older picture, okay? So I will touch on those. Geography of Sudan, people, culture, tribes, languages, history of civil war, and lost, that's a title, lost boys, and then a little bit on the political system and the current urgencies or situation, and then if you have any questions that are not covered, okay? Okay, so whatever you know, whatever you don't know, I hope you will learn today. At the end of the section, if you have more questions, you can ask. I hope I have the answers. No one knows all the answers, right? So I'll try. So this is Sudan. This is the map of Sudan. Today I will be talking a little bit. As I said, I really didn't have any idea of what you would be interested to know, so I tried my best. At the end, if you have questions that are not answered, you can ask questions. A quick guess, so the American flag, you have the stripes and you have the stars, right? It stands for the 50 states, right? And the stripes are for representation of, don't worry. Any guess what these colors are representation of?
Your tribe?
We have 3 different colors. So any guesses? What would each of these? The green? The green is for agriculture. Sudan is an agricultural country. We can plant almost everything, right? And the red is for blood that came out of because Sudan was colonized by the British government, right, from 1821 until 1956. So all the people died in the war. This red color represents them. The black is this, right? The color of the people in Sudan, okay? Okay, so I'll be talking a little bit about the history, the people, and the culture in general, okay?
What does the white color stand for?
Oh, the white color is we are the nicest people on earth. And you noticed that already, right? Okay, yeah, so it's about the manners of Sudan. Okay, so the geography of Sudan. The location of Sudan is in the central, eastern central. Some people describe it as the northeast side of Africa. We'll look at the map in a minute. So it's surrounded by, in the former Sudan, which was Sudan and South Sudan, and we will talk about that in a bit. There were like 9 countries in the borders of Sudan. Now there are 7 countries in the borders of Sudan. There is the Red Sea from the east, like southern east-west side, east-north or northeast, and then there is Ethiopia, right? Egypt from the north, Ethiopia and Eritrea. Ethiopia and Eritrea used to be one country and they split. So both of them are on the eastern side of Sudan. And then South Sudan, which used to be part of Sudan, is from the south part. And then the Republic of Central Africa from the southwest. And Chad is from the west of Sudan. So 7 countries bordering Sudan. Sudan now is the third largest country in Africa. It used to be the largest country in Africa before the split of Sudan and South Sudan. Now it comes after Algeria and Congo. Actually, East Congo, because there are two Congos, right? East country. The capital is Khartoum. The area is 728,200 square miles, right? It's still a big country. Population about 40 million people live in Sudan. Okay, 40.53 million people, and that's according to 2017. The currency used, so originally the currency was pound, just like the British, right? Because we inherited the British kind of economy and everything. So we used until 2000, I would say 2005, it changed into dinar. And that's a very long story. We don't want to get to it. There was inflation. So what they did, they assumed that if they're gonna for example, you would take $10, right? And put it together and give it a different name. Right? Because if you are talking about $10 and you say this is $10 versus this is 1 dinar, it will look like it's a trick. So that's what they did. But people still go with pound. Still, if you have 1 dinar, people would say 10 pounds, right? So it didn't work out. Okay, the official language is Arabic. English is taught in 5th grade. Right, starting 5th grade, and then it's not used that much, right? Except for foreign affairs, like if there is a delegation or a conference, right? In a country from Europe or somewhere else, they can use English, but it's not used in everyday life, right? Yeah. Okay, move on. So this is the old Sudan. This is the map of old Sudan. And if you see the countries around it, on the border, Central Africa, Libya. I forgot to mention Libya and the northwest, Chad, right? Eritrea here, the Red Sea, right? East north, Ethiopia, right here, and then Kenya are no longer on the border of Sudan because these are on the borders of South Sudan now, right, in the south. Am I going too fast? Can you understand me, my accent? Are you guys doing okay? Okay,
Again,
good.
think about the book and the date. This map is 2011, okay?
Okay, so here's the current Sudan and South Sudan after they split in 2011. So now this is a separate country by itself. And the capital city of that is Juba. I don't know if it is there. Okay, right? And Khartoum is right here, the capital of Sudan. And I have another map for, if you can move on. Yeah, and this is the location within the continent of Africa. And that's how it looks now. It's kind of north, so this is Egypt, and that is Sudan, so it's kind of northeast, but they sometimes term it as central east, right? Okay, any questions so far? Doing good? Okay. So the landscape of Sudan is mainly plains, right? Plains, and it's surrounded by mountains, right? It's just like Tucson, Sudan, right? We have a lot of mountains in different areas. If we look at the next slide, the highest point is in this mountain in the west of Sudan. Is called Marra, right? Jabal Marra, right? Or the mountain of Marra. It's in Darfur. Have you heard of Darfur? No? Okay. Have you heard of the genocide in Sudan? I don't want to talk about it.
We haven't gotten to it.
Okay, so Jabal Marra is in Darfur, and it stands on 9,980 feet over the sea level. Okay, this is the highest point in Sudan. Okay, and there are other mountains as well in Sudan. Okay. Okay, so when we talk about the natural resources, the Nile is number one natural resource. The Nile is the longest river, and when people say Nile, they associate it usually with Egypt, but actually the Nile flows in Sudan longer, in a longer distance than in Egypt. And it starts in Uganda in the south and runs all the way until the Mediterranean Sea in the north of Egypt, right? So it's about 3,000 kilometers flowing in Sudan, right? That is the main resource. People depend on the Nile for agriculture, for growing different plantation, and also for electric power, right? You know that, all right? There are a lot of dams and falls along the Nile we use for electricity. So this is the main resource. Like when you go to Sudan, you want to see, remember this, 20 years from now, when you go to Sudan, you need to go and see the River Nile, okay? Okay. And then we have mines, a lot of mines. So examples of this mine like copper, iron, ore, mica, silver, gold. I don't know if we have that or I put it by accident. No.
This is of all the mines.
Yeah, but I don't know if we have it. I'll check that. So don't worry about this. But yeah, and then the oil as well. We have a lot of oil. But the problem is, what do you think the problem is? With all these resources, Sudan is a poor country. Why? Why do you think so? Yes, why do you think it's a poor country? People steal, okay, good guess. Sudan has all these resources like oil. Like Saudi Arabia is a rich country because it has a lot of oil, and we have even more oil than Saudi Arabia, okay? But we are still poor. We don't have a lot of money. Why?
Because there's not much left.
Okay. Who else?
I was going to say that.
Okay.
Maybe because there's a lot of people that we take care of.
Okay. Imagine you have gold, right? You have raw gold at home, right? And it's just sitting there. Are you going to be rich? You have gold, you got it, or you have a lot of money and you're gathering this money and putting the money in your safe, right? Are you going to look rich?
No.
What are you supposed to do with the gold that you have or the money?
Sell it.
Sell it, use it, right? And buy stuff, buy a car, right? Buy a big home.
Let's say you have gold in your house. How are you going to use it, though, if it's like just the gold?
You sell it. Gold, like raw gold, right? Yeah, you need to sell it, right? Use it in different ways. That makes sense?
Why is gold worth so much?
Why is gold worth? Because,
Different topic, guys.
yeah, but because, people like it. People like to use it. Women like to wear gold. So that's why it's expensive. When you are older, you will understand that better. But because of the war, guys, because of the war, we are so busy fighting and killing each other, so we can't use the resources we have. That's a problem, right? You are focused on the war, and we will know why we have war, right? So it's very sad. We have all this sitting underground in Sudan, but we are poor. Just like a stingy guy who has a lot of money, and he just keep the money and never uses it, right? Okay. So climate. Now talking about climate. So Sudan is in the tropics, right? You know the tropics, right?
They do, but they don't remember.
Okay. So
Part of the map, guys, remember when we looked at the map, the middle portion?
Yeah.
The equator?
Oh, yeah.
And you have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn?
Yeah.
The area between it, that's
right.
tropics.
So Khartoum, for example, so if a country is within the equator, it's going to be really hot because the sun is going to be hitting that spot like directly, right? 90 degrees. the sun is going to come like this, so it's always hot. Tropics a little bit. Sudan, for example, is Khartoum is 15 degrees north of the equator, right? So 15 or not very far, right? So that is why Sudan is all, if you think Tucson is hot, look at this. Khartoum is like 41 Celsius. This is how we measure it, but in America, you use the Fahrenheit, so it's about 107 Fahrenheit. That's how hot it gets here in Tucson, right? But it can reach up to 118 Fahrenheit. So it's because it's not far from the equator. It's about 15 degrees north of the equator. So usually between April and May, it gets really, really hot, especially in Khartoum. And the lowest is around 15 Celsius, which is about 59. Just like today, for example, it feels like this. This is the lowest it gets usually, right? So it doesn't get that cold. Okay. So the people, this is where it gets really complicated. So when you think about Sudan, there are Arabs, and I put Arab between quotations because, like, even the definition of Arab, we don't know what Arab refers to. Some people think of, if you speak the language, Arabic, you are Arab. I speak Arabic, but I'm not Arab, right? So it gets really complicated. Some people think of it as an ethnic group. You know what ethnic group means? Like, you know how there are Mexican and Chinese, and so when, yes?
So basically, they speak their own languages?
And, okay. Any other guess? You never went over these, right? Like ethnic groups and,
Nope.
okay.
I mean, we've covered certain things, but
Right, okay. Right, okay, so I don't want to go like far. So, okay, so the majority of the people living in Sudan are Arabs, okay? And then you have other indigenous people or people from other African tribes like me. So you can see some people who have lighter skin, right? And some people who are even darker than me because they're from African, they have African background, African blood, right? Does that make more sense? Like they are from the part of Africa. So there are two parts of the people. Some of them are Arabs who are lighter on their skin. Their features are different, right? And then you have people who are from African origin who look very much like me, right? So we have a lot of tribes in Sudan. Some examples of these tribes, so the Arabs are the majority, that most of the people are Arabs. And then, but if you put all these African tribes together, they are more than the Arabs by themselves. Does that make sense? Okay. And then, so some of the tribes are the Nubians. Have you ever heard of the Nubians? Have you ever met someone who is from the Nuba? Nubian? Have you ever met? Today you did. I'm from the Nubian. Okay, so I belong to that tribe. So the Nubian.
if I consider, guys, Egypt, just south of Egypt is Nubia. And it is the part that when Egypt wasn't doing well, the Nubian Empire took over, and then Egypt came back to power and took over Nubia again.
Okay, so there is a history, the relationship between Egypt, especially south of Egypt, and the Nubian. Even though now the majority of the Nubian live in the west or the Midwest of Sudan. Because of war, they didn't, because the north of Sudan, which is south of Egypt, is like plains. It's open. So if you are attacked, there is no way to defend or to hide. So many of the Nubians moved to the Midwest of Sudan where there is mountains. That's why there is a place in Sudan called Nuba Mountains. And that's where I'm from, the Nuba Mountains. Okay? So the Nubian Bija is in the east of Sudan, and then you have Falata, and Falata extends in all West and East Africa. So in Nigeria, Niger, you will find this ethnic group. And then you have 4 in Darfur, And then you have the Masalit is also another tribe, right? And then I think, if you go back, and then the former Sudan, which included South Sudan, the major three tribes are Dinka, Nuer. And that is why I think the character in your book is from Nuer.
One of them's Dinka, one of them's Nuer.
Right, so these two tribes are actually in the south of Sudan now, right? And then the other tribe in South Sudan is Shuluk, okay? And here you see people from Nubia. This is from Bija in the east. And then you have, these are Arabs with lighter skin, but it's still dark in this picture, okay? Okay, languages. So Arabic is the main language, right? But we use the, like a Sudanese dialect, right? So if you go to different, do you know any other Arabic countries? Egypt is one of them. Sudan? Any other one? Yes? Huh? Lebanon? Syria? Not Chinese. Okay, so every country speak a different dialect of Arabic. So I'm from Sudan, I speak Sudanese Arabic. If I meet someone from Lebanon, they might speak a different, they do speak a different variety or dialect. Do you know what dialect is? No? Am I going to advance? Yes?
Different type of a language?
Yes, smart, different. So who is in from Mexico or even the United States, right? So if you go to Texas, people speak slightly different from people who live or from Arizona, right? Right, so this we call dialect, different dialects. The same language, but like there are slight difference.
Like an accent?
Accent is different from dialect. We don't want to go there, but like, you know, you can, yeah, there is an accent. Everyone, so even you individually, each of you will have a different accent, right? I have a different accent from all of you because I learned this language when I was 20-some years old, right? I start like speaking fluently like this, right? So I have my own accent, you have your own accent. Everyone has his own accent, right? And it's not a shame to have an accent. People use it in a very wrong way, right? But like accent is like something that is unique to everyone. But a dialect is like it's usually associated with a group of people or a place, like Texas, for example. Texas have a, you know, a dialect and
British
so on.
English the same as American English? No. But they're still using basically the same words,
right?
There's your dialect.
Right. And there can be some different words as well, right? Okay. So anyway, that's a very long story. So Sudan has their own Arabic dialect, okay? And then you have a lot of, so 27 million people speak Arabic. Remember I said the majority of the people are from the Arab. Indigenous means like local people, like, or African tribes, right? So there are a lot of about 114 different languages spoken by the African tribes, okay? Some of these languages are Bija languages, Nubian languages, four Nilo-Saharan languages, which is a family of languages together, okay? This is Arabic. This is how you write Arabic, and it goes from right to left. This says Shari al-Maknimir, okay? That's the name of a street, okay? Yeah, let's move on. And these are some examples. It's beautiful, right? So this is a style of Arabic writing. This is just one style of Arabic writing. This is the Arabic alphabet, right? So kha, ha, ja, tha, ta, ba, a, sa, sha, sa, za, ra, dha, dal, qaf, fa, gha, a, dha, ta, do, ya, waw, ha, noon, mim, lam, kaf, right? This.
Quiz on that tomorrow.
Yeah. What language, what alphabet is this? We talked about different languages in Sudan. Who can guess? Yes. What language? We talked about. Now, this is the Arabic alphabet, but this is not Arabic alphabet. This is what? What? Yes? What African tribe? Huh? Not Denka. Very good guess. Huh? Nubian, yes. That's my language. And this was developed recently, actually. Not all African tribes, indigenous language or African languages are written. Some started like writing or creating their own scripts for the writing, and it is developed from actually taken from the English alphabet, actually. So if you see this looks like K, this is like C and P, X, right? But there are sounds that do not exist in English. They have to come up with their own symbols for this. Like nya, for example. Do you have nya in your in English sounds? Nya, can you say it? No, nya. Okay, it's very much like the ing in, but some tribes started like creating their own alphabet and writing systems, right? Using maybe the any of the Romance or the Latin alphabet, and then when the sound does not exist, they can create their own symbol for these sounds. Closing. Okay, this looks very different, right? From what you know. Okay, so the Western business like this, mostly people dress like this, like for in towns and big cities when they go to work. But there are other, what is very, especially for women, you won't see women with jeans and short dresses. All women has like tradition they need to wear, or they wear long dresses and they wear headscarf if you go to Sudan. And then there is this kind of dress. This is called tob, right? It covers the whole body, right? This is actually, you will see in South Morocco, Mauritania. Have you heard of Morocco? Right? And some other Muslim countries, okay? So this is the traditional dress. Usually, unmarried women don't wear this. Usually married women. So if you are wearing this and you are walking on the streets, or you are in a party or some gathering, and if there is someone who is looking for a wife, you lose a chance, because they will think you are married, right? So usually women, like married women, wear this kind of thing, and then girls wear just long dresses and scarf and food. Food, yeah. So we are like carnivores. You know what that means? Yeah. We eat meat a lot, because Sudan is rich in animal resource. We have a lot of cows, a lot of sheep and goats. If I don't eat, even now in America, if I don't eat meat, or if I take a meal that doesn't have meat, I don't feel like I ate anything. It's not food for me. Pizza is not food for me, because I grew up eating meat, even in the morning. So the main, component of any meal is meat, right? And then you have other, meat usually is bread. And people eat a lot of fruits too, like vegetables and so on. Vegetables, salad and so on, and fruits, right? But you have to have meat in every meal, right? Usually not to exaggerate, not in the morning, right? Yeah, but like for lunch and dinner, right? We eat meat a lot. And then we usually have wheat and other types of like we have sorghum. You know what sorghum is? Means? No? Okay.
No, it's a type of bean, guys.
Yeah, it's very similar to wheat. So we can make bread and other tradition. This is the most famous thing. Where is it? Kisra. Kisra is just a flat bread. It's like tortilla but big. right? Right, it's big tortilla. And we eat it with okra and meat, again, right? So it's like the bread, the African Sudanese version of tortilla, right? Okay. Yeah, 10 minutes. Okay. So yeah, so let's just go fast and then we can leave room for questions. So, so the history of war, I will talk very quickly about this. Is very sad. So we had two civil wars. One started in 1955 and ended in 1972, and then the second war started in 1983 and ended in 2005. And there was still political unrest until 2011 when the South split and became a country by itself. And then the reason for the war was the distribution of power and resources. So when we talk about the central government, we assume the central government, the power has always been in the hands of the Arabs, right? So this movement, so the Sudan People's Liberation Army, this was a movement like a rebellion. You know what? You talked about rebelling, and no? Okay, so the people from African origins, the people who are African, felt like they didn't get a chance to rule, to have power in the country. So a group of military men, from the army, they thought they should fight the government so that they can have chance to. Because since the independence of Sudan, when was the independence of Sudan? I mentioned it. When was the independence of Sudan?
2005.
No, from Britain.
Oh.
2003?
1956. From that time until today, there was no president from the African group. All the president, all the power has always been in the hands of the Arabs because they're the majority, right? So this group, this one soldier or general, I guess, from the south of Sudan, they started a revolution, or you can, a revolution, and he went and he wanted to fight. And that was in 1983, and then this war continued until 2005, right? So the main reason for the war, because they thought, the African tribes thought that the power should be, shared by all people from all tribes, right? Not only the Arabs. There is a lot of race and identity and religion issues, because in the last 30 years, there was a government that is claimed Islamic regime. Like they came with an Islamic kind of ideal. I'm speaking so high, like
guys, just remember
very high.
in the book they talked about how the North was Islamic and the South was not.
Right.
It's the two different cultures, two different concepts of how to worship.
Right.
They clashed, and the Northern
Right.
group was militant, I guess you could say.
Right.
They're very militant. Says you do it this way or we'll kill you.
Right. Right.
Okay? And the other people said it's not right.
Right. So that was the reason mainly for the most important thing. I think the most important information: 2 million people died in that war. You can imagine how bad that is, right? And not just from the killing, also because there was a lot of famine, right? A lot of hunger. People died out of hunger. Imagine you are in a place you can't go anywhere or find any food. Because of that war, you die of hunger, disease, and so on, right? And then the war extended from the south, just the south, to the Nuba Mountains and the Blue Nile. And these are places also of African-skinned people, right? Or black-skinned people, okay? Lost Boys, actually group of about 20,000, 200,000 boys from Nuer and Denka actually flee, and they scattered all over Africa. Mainly they went to a camp, right? 2,000 of them died and then the rest of them made it to Ethiopia and lived in a camp in Ethiopia. And then they were offered a resettlement. They were, the American government gave them a chance to come here, and they were resettled in major states in the United States, right? In 2005, around 2005. It started in 2005 and then continued, right? The Lost Boys. Okay. Yeah. So currently, as I said, there was a government, an Islamic government, Arab government that ruled Sudan for the last 30 years. And it ended by a revolution that was held in 2018, And then now there is a transitional government. What does transitional government mean? It means like this government is going to come and just make things better and prepare for an election for a permanent government. Does that make sense? So now there is a transitional government, a temporary government, right? Mixed between civilians and people from the military, right? Sudan now is facing inflation. Inflation means you can take a bag of money or like a sack full of money, and you can only buy a sandwich from McDonald's with that money. That's called inflation. The money doesn't have any value. It has very low value, right? And that's what Sudan is facing right now. Any questions? Yes?
What do they live in? What do they live in?
Oh, that's a very good question. We live in regular houses in the cities, like built out of bricks, just like here. But there are some places where, like rainforests, they live in huts. That's built out of straw and wood, like huts. That's a very good question. I should have included that. Yes?
Did you guys have to become American citizens?
Okay, so the law, if you live here for 5 years, you will become an American citizen. And then you can apply for citizenship, and that's what I did. And then you can be American. Very good question.
What's the Blue Nile?
The Blue Nile, very good. So, as I said, the Nile starts in Uganda, right, in the south, and goes all the way to Egypt and then to the Mediterranean Sea. The Blue Nile comes from Ethiopia. Where is Ethiopia? On the border, which border? The eastern border, right? So the Blue Nile comes from Ethiopia, the mountains in Ethiopia, and there is a lake called Tana in Ethiopia, Tana Lake, and goes all the way and meet with this river in a very beautiful scene here. I should have included that. Oh man, I wish you have sent me the questions before I, Yeah, so that's a very good question. So the Blue Nile comes from Ethiopia, and then the Nile, we call it actually the Wide Nile. Why? The Blue Nile is very blue, just like this. And the White Nile is very blue. And when they meet, we call it the joint. When they meet, you can see this is blue. There is a line. There is almost a line that separates them. They don't mix. They're running really fast. The Blue Nile is really tough, right? And the White Nile is calm. But the water doesn't mix. It's a very beautiful scenery. If you go to Sudan, go and see it. Very beautiful. Yes?
Have you been in a war?
Have I been in a war? No. No, I haven't. I've been a teacher since I was 17 years old, so I didn't get a chance to go in a war. When the war started, I was living in Khartoum. The war was mostly in the south, like far from where I lived. So I'm glad the south, yeah. Any more questions? Okay, thank you so much, guys. Have you learned a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.